Hi,
Hi,
welcome back to our channel. Welcome if you're new. I'm Justine and this is
I'm Dion.
Dion. Yeah, I've got stiff person syndrome and Dion is he's my carer slash kind of boyfriend. Today we are going to talk about plasma exchange. I had a plasma exchange for my stiff person syndrome, which is a normal
It's one of the standard treatments available, but it's
yes.
also available for other illnesses.
Yeah. At the time when I had it, it was at the beginning of 2019. I had to wait for a few months, I think it
It
was.
was about 3 months.
Anyway, I waited throughout 2018 because the hospital that we are under only has one.
Only had
At the time, only
one
had
machine.
one machine, but more than that, I only had one nurse who could operate
Well,
it.
technically, it had more than one machine, but it only had one machine available to neurology.
Okay. So normally, I understand from what I've seen, it looks like you're being hooked to two cannulas, one going to your
One going into one arm, one into the
and
other.
one to the other, yeah. And basically, the plasma is
Well,
taking.
they draw your blood out from one end and remove your plasma and replace that plasma with good plasma from another source, and then it goes back into your system the other end.
Yeah. So I couldn't have this done because I've got scar tissues in my both arms. So I had a. They decided to admit me to a hospital to have it done. The problem was that because there was one nurse and she couldn't do it every day. They've done it over 8 days, and that was probably the first problem with the whole setup. So she was coming over every so often, every 3 days, and doing it. So I was admitted on Monday, and following Monday they let me go home. Before that, they had to put to avoid using my veins. They had to put the central line in. So I was told that I would have central line in, but there was slight misunderstanding because when I think central line, I thought they were going to put that somewhere around my chest, just like for chemotherapy. They put it here. But they didn't tell me anything about this one. Next thing I knew, they decided that they're gonna put in my groin, basically my right
It was
side.
a femoral line into your femoral artery in your groin. Yeah.
Thank you. So I was already like a little bit. I wasn't prepared because all the pajamas that I took with me had access to, and had buttons here. Anyway, they took me to the theater, and once they found out how many drugs I'm on, they decided they can't really give me anything because they were not doing that under general anesthesia, but under local ones. So they decided they can't give me anything to knock me out because nothing would work. So they just took me to the theater and put me under lots of blankets. I was really, really cold, so my SPS was acting out. I had very nice crew, I have to say. I was Australian doctor, and the assistant was Irish, an Australian. They were trying. There was someone holding my hand as well. This is like ideal version of NHS. So there was a nurse holding my hand. People were talking to me, so I wouldn't feel so nervous. And I was talking to the Australian guy about a citizenship test. And it was quite funny. We were talking about Henry VIII and how silly the monarchy is, and like everything's silly about the test. So it was kind of cool. They made me forget what they were doing. I could say that is probably one of the better experiences I had in NHS. Very helpful, very efficient, very good at what they were doing, very, very reassuring. I felt safe. Once I had this line put in. They put me on the ward. My mom came over here because she wanted to see the process. Well, not necessarily the plasma exchange itself, but she wanted to make sure that I'm extra safe. She brought me like different pajamas and more like a dress, yeah. So far so good. I was told that I will have to have heparin. I don't remember what they said. Now I understand it was heparin lock that I was supposed to have. By the way, I'm saying heparin. I think the correct way of saying is heparin, isn't it?
Heparin. I mean, that's the spelling, yeah. Heparin. But everyone says heparin quickly.
Everyone says heparin. It's ibuprofen. So, in order for the line to stay there, because they decided to do it over 8 days, there was a risk that the line would block, and because
there's a risk of clots getting in, so they have to put heparin into the line.
Yeah,
to prevent clots from getting into the line.
Yeah, but because I didn't do enough research about it, I didn't quite understand what that entailed. But I trusted that whoever was doing that, they knew what they were doing. Unfortunately, not so much, because the heparin was just being injected into my bloodstream, and I didn't see anything wrong at the time. But because it was 8 days and it was done 3 days, three times a day, there was quite a lot of heparin. And
but on top of that, you were also getting daily heparin injections to prevent you from getting clots.
Oh yeah, I was getting injections in my belly to prevent from clotting, as Diana is saying. So that was a lot of heparin every single day. And I noticed that some nurses were actually doing it different than the others. So some nurses were doing lock, while some nurses were actually putting the injection in my bloodstream.
Well, yeah, let's explain what the heparin lock is supposed to do. So you're supposed to inject the heparin into the line only, and then if it's done 3 times a day, the next time you're supposed to draw out that heparin, then flush the line, then put more heparin into it.
Flush with saline.
Yeah, flush it with saline, and then put more heparin into the line, and just into the line, not into your bloodstream, basically.
Yeah. I trusted that they knew what they were doing. So
well, I think part of the problem was that when you first came in, the nurse that was supposed to be giving you the plasma exchange, she had to tell the other nurses how to do the heparin locks. They didn't know what they were doing in the first place.
Yeah, if you're not used to do some kind of thing and you don't know, just don't do it. Then I just don't even know where this logic is coming from.
Well, I mean, someone had to do it, but if you're going to do it, make sure you know how to do it.
Yeah, probably someone who knew. Yeah, but this is for health professionals to. Basically, I was in the dark. I'm a patient. I don't always have to be informed on absolutely everything. And
you shouldn't have to be, really. You shouldn't have to be. Professionals should know what they're doing.
And I had some, I think, dissolvable stitches and things like that.
Well, you had some stitches to keep the line in place.
Yeah. Listen, if there's anything, I can go for anything, like a lot. I've got really low pain threshold, but I can go for a lot. But when it comes to stitches, this is when I draw the line. I hate stitches. I hate looking. I wasn't even looking at my line. It was just freaking me out, the fact that it was there. This is stitches, line. I was scared, so I wasn't looking. But at some point, I decided to look at what they were doing. So I noticed that some of them would some nurses would just inject the heparin straight to the bloodstream, and then they would draw some blood for some reason. I don't know why, don't ask me. And this nurse practitioner that I'm going to talk about, she did it the other way around. She drew some blood and then she injected heparin. By the way, both things are wrong, because as Dion mentioned, the heparin shouldn't go anywhere near my bloodstream. It should stay in the line. So I asked her why she was doing it differently, and she said that it didn't matter. So I just went with the answer, it didn't matter. At the same time, I was feeling sick every single day. I couldn't eat. They set me up with a dietitian who never saw me, but I was asking for specific anti-sickness medication, which I told I was given, but it wasn't working. When I take it at home, it is working, but in hospital, it wasn't working. It was only the last day when I found out that the entire time when I was supposed to be given that other anti-sickness, I was being given something completely different because it's cheaper. I guess it's because it's cheaper. But no one ever told me. If they said that this is what we're giving you, I would be like, hey, this is not helping. But that actually made sense why I was so anxious in the hospital, because this drug makes me super anxious. I was prescribed that by family doctor before, and it didn't work for me. Not only didn't work for my sickness, but it just made me feel even more sick and also really, really anxious. By the way, when it comes to anxiety, I know that one person left a comment saying that
So the doctors are very keen to just blame everything on anxiety, rather than actually look for what the real problem is.
yes, they are. They are absolutely. When it comes to anxiety, it's the first go-to thing, especially if you're a woman. I'm gonna make a video about how differently we are treated to men. But once you are diagnosed with something as stiff person syndrome, anxiety is always there, just in case, but everything is blamed on stiff person syndrome. So even if you've got other problems, you will never get to the bottom of it either.
Yeah, everyone was very quick to say, oh, it must be your stiff person syndrome then, even though they didn't know.
Yeah, now it must be chemotherapy because I'm taking chemotherapy. So it's always something. But yeah, if they don't know the answer, then anxiety, yes, it's always the first thing to blame. So it was making me anxious. The last day I found out that they were giving me something else. They brought dinner. I didn't eat it again. But that time I was actually already lost quite a lot of weight in that hospital alone. It was like 8 days. So anyway, when I found out that ondansetron was never given to me, I got really annoyed. And you know that little folders that they put at the end of the bed? I just look at it because I was thinking like, what else did they give me that I don't know about? So I was quite angry. I just picked it up, and it turned out that the dietitian never came, because instead of actually saying that I'm not eating anything and weighing me, they actually decided to put ticks against the dinners that, yeah, it's fine, everything is fine, she's eating. That wasn't true. I don't understand who's that helping, all the lies. I mean, you could, that was absolutely awful. All I needed was that special pill, and I would eat dinner. But anyway, so my mom was still here. Lots of things were uneventful. Was very quiet in the hospital at the time. It was 2019, so it was very beginning of 2019. It was January, as a matter of fact. So no one knew about COVID. Dion was there with me most of the time, like every single day. The weekend in the hospital, oh my god, is dragging and dragging and dragging. I just hate staying in hospital, especially over the weekend.
Because they just don't do anything in the hospital over weekends here for some reason.
No.
It's very rare that you might have a scan or something, but rarely they'll do anything. The doctors aren't really there. They're just doctors there to check on you. That's about it. Yeah,
but because I was still waiting, they did the whole thing in 3 parts. So normally when they do plasma exchange, they do it in 4 hours and it's done. Mine was, I
think, as a one-off. I think
as a one-off,
but because they wanted to give you 3 rounds of plasma exchange.
Was it 3 rounds?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did. It was 3 days really. All like they did it very quickly every single time, and but I had to, like, as I said, wait 8 days, and the last day was also my discharge day. So they gave me the plasma exchange, and they discharged me home. Obviously, I was really, really unhappy about the whole lie about ondansetron. I think this is the person who came over to ask about my dinners. That was
the dietitian on the last day.
Yeah, and I told her that all I need is the anti-sickness that I asked for, and that's it. And she was really perplexed, and now it's like my patience is run out. At that point, goodwill just was done. So pretty much the line was being taken out by a nurse, and they discharged me home. I was given ondansetron, but the dinner was too late for dinner. We just went home. I was sick as a dog. I think I fell asleep pretty much straight away that day.
Yeah, definitely.
Wasn't it? Yeah. And the next day I was still feeling a little bit sick, a little bit rough, like I wasn't myself. And towards the evening I went to the bathroom and I came out and I looked at my legs, and the right leg was really like, it's almost like what's that colour?
Well, it's like red.
Purple.
Purpley red.
Purpley red, and it was much bigger than the left one. So I said to Dion, like, hey, look, that looks funny. Well, it wasn't funny, and also it was quite painful. So Dion called the ambulance, and the ambulance staff, they arrived in, what, 5 minutes?
I don't think it was quite 5 minutes, it was like 10 to 15 minutes, but they were quick.
They were very quick. We live very close to the hospital, but
I don't think they would have come from the hospital, they would have come from the ambulance station, but we live quite close to an ambulance station as well.
yeah, but nothing like what's happening nowadays when you have to wait for a hospital.
No, it'd be at least half an hour now.
Yeah. Well, half an hour. Some people say 2 days, but
It depends. I think where we are, the times aren't quite as bad as the rest of England. So
you would have taken me.
yeah, I would have driven you there anyway if it came to that, but
Yeah.
luckily I didn't have to.
Yeah. So they came over. They look at it, and I'm like, yeah, that's not good. We better take you to A&E. And they did. They were really good.
Yeah, they were really, really good actually.
Yeah, they let Dion to go with me. So they took me back to the hospital, and this is when they put me in A&E, and I was just laying there. A&E is just like,
I think even then,
Yeah.
but they put you into a room first where they examine you, and then they transfer you to the proper A&E area.
yeah,
But even there, when where we went first, we said to the guy, we think it's DVT. And he said, oh, why do you think it's that? Because it has all the symptoms of DVT.
yeah, the deep vein
Deep vein
thrombosis.
thrombosis.
Yeah, I was basically just laying there on a trolley, which is so bad for my back. Dion was just sitting on a plastic chair. At some point, he fell asleep. I couldn't because I was in too much pain.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, I just felt like screaming. So I think he went to a nurse station, and the nurse came over and was like, oh, what happened? First thing was like, the nurse came over, and I said, like, I think I've got DVT in my leg. And she was like, why? Why do you think that? And I was like, I showed her my leg, which by that time was absolutely
It was even bigger
massive.
than
It
it was
was
before.
even bigger than before, and it was hurting so much. And I said, like, well, because I've got DVT, now I can see it. I'm not blind. And she was like, wow, you might have DVT. So she called the doctor straight away. And obviously, the doctor gave me heparin. They gave me heparin, and they also gave me morphine, so I was a little bit out of it. And they did a scan in A&E and decided that there was a clot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what we were saying at the beginning, that this is just a clot. And they said, like, yeah, we can see the clot, so go have some heparin. And then they gave me heparin again, and they put me in another area, this temporary area. And I was so tired after, so many days in the hospital, and then not sleeping in A&E. And Dion came.
Well, I think I was still there at that point.
You were
It wasn't
still
until
there.
you were transferred to the ward that I left.
Yeah, so you left.
So it must have been about 10 or 11 o'clock the next morning, wasn't it? Something like that.
And they just kept transferring me. And at that point, I was just laying in bed, and I was thinking, like, well, my left eye is getting a little bit funny, and it was a little bit blurry, and it felt like I scratched it on something. So I didn't really pay too much attention to it. I was just thinking, like, well, it's gonna go. And the next day, well, they finally transferred me in the middle of the night to a ward, the quite big ward. There were only old people there, and the lady who was transferred with me at the same time, oh my God, she was shouting so much. And bless her, she was really out of it, but I don't know what she was screaming about. But they put her opposite to me, so it was another, like, pretty much sleepless night. At that time, I was getting morphine regularly because the pain was just ridiculous. And when I woke up next day on that ward, I couldn't see anything with my left eye. So they took me straight away, they took me to eye casualty. By the way, they actually told me the day before that I don't have DVT anymore. They brought some scan, and they said, like, no, your leg is clean. And I was like, well, you should check again, because I feel that it's not right. So they took me to so-called Doppler scan, didn't they? And it turned out that not only did I have clot in DVT, my DVT was going right from my ankle or my calf to my groin with some spaces. So, you know, the blood was basically obstructed. This is what I found out the day before. And the next day I found out that I can't see anything with my left eye. So they took me to eye casualty. And very quickly, the doctor decided that I'm bleeding to my eye. So I had internal bleeding to my eye, and at the same time, my right leg had clots in it. So I asked the doctor, the doctor in eye casualties, I was like, so am I going to lose my leg or am I going to lose my eye or both? And he said like, oh, I don't know, I can't really answer that. I was like, okay, that's great. And oh my God, what was happening in that ward, I don't know, but they gave me the eye drops, and they asked me to put eye drops every hour. And when it comes to me and eye drops, I don't do eye drops either. Like the stitches and eye drops are the things I don't do. It reminds me of that, you know, Rachel
and Friends.
Yeah, and Friends.
On three. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
An eye casualty doctor asked me to put these drops in my eye every single hour. And I couldn't do it, so I asked nurses to do it, but I couldn't get access of her for like every single hour. So whenever she was there, I asked her to do it, but she was really angry that she had to do it. So she would put it like right beneath my eye. I can do it myself. I can put stuff beneath my eye and then just try to put that back inside, which is basically what I was doing with her, but that's not helpful for me. So Dion had to come over pretty quickly so he could administer the eye drops. Not only that, but there was another surprise on that ward, and because I couldn't walk at all at that point. I couldn't even like get off bed without using, I mean, I had to get transferred from the bed straight onto the wheelchair. My leg hurt so much, and I had to use entire facilities they had in the bathroom, and I've never seen a bathroom like that. And I mean, you say it.
Well, it wasn't very clean, was it?
No, it's awful. And we expect that from public bathroom, that every time we use disabled public bathroom, Dion usually cleans the toilets.
And wipe down, yeah.
Yeah, but he was doing that in the hospital, which is not very good, is it?
Well, you wouldn't expect that. I mean, there were a lot of old ladies on the ward, and I guess there weren't enough nurses.
Nurses don't clean.
Yeah,
they
weren't going around and cleaning the bathroom after people. So
no, nurses don't. They're not even supposed to. They're supposed to be cleaners doing that. But if you actually, someone should be checking the state of it.
Yeah, well, not just that. I remember there was an old lady in the toilet for a long time, and then she had to call out for someone to come and get her because she wanted help.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know what was going on.
There was a very strange situation there. The nurses weren't too keen on helping people, it seemed. But.
No, and once I asked for a commode, and that was the only, it was middle of the night, and I was given the commode, but the commode came with a poo on it, so I stopped asking for commode. And then they had another lady in this ward, and that lady was she was absolutely sure that she was given the medication that she shouldn't be given, because every time you go into hospital, you're supposed to surrender your medication, and the nurses are supposed to give you other medication. So there was entire thing about her meds, and normally I wouldn't care because it's not my business, except it kind of was, because another night came 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not joking. All lights are on, and the police comes in, and they ask this lady, so what happened? Who gave you the pills? Because this lady was asking entire time, please take me out of here. Take me out of here. I need my daughter to take me out of this ward because, you know, like, you poisoning me. And this entire thing, I don't understand why no one took her to another room to ask what happened. They had to turn the lights on and basically wake up all the patients. So that's another night I didn't sleep. One of the doctors, and I understand he was GP, the Greek
Well,
one.
I don't know if it was GP, it was just one of the ward doctors.
One of the ward doctors, he said to me like, oh, I spent 2 hours on the phone with hematologist. He said that with, like, I don't know, I was supposed to be sorry for him. Me knowing at the same time that I may either keep my eye or my leg, or maybe both if I'm lucky, or maybe none if I'm very unlucky. So he told me that the whole thing is that I had antibodies against heparin. So the strategy at that point was, I guess I was kind of lucky, because if bleeding was anywhere else rather than my eye, I wouldn't even know that. But fortunately we had a solution, which was basically stop using heparin and start using different blood thinners.
Mm-hmm.
I think at least a week they kept me on that ward, and nothing eventful was happening. I mean, once this...
It was just waiting for things to improve, wasn't it? Waiting for your eye to get better and your leg.
Yeah, the screaming lady went into, I believe, social care at that point. And the lady who said that they gave her different drugs, her daughter took her away. So it was a little bit...
A little bit more bearable.
bearable, and also my leg... Oh, the doctors asked me to lift my leg up, and at the same time I had to lay in a position that would elevate my back. So in order to achieve that, I needed some extra cushions for my leg, and I asked for that, and the nurses told me that they don't have it. I don't even know how a hospital can have extra cushions to elevate my legs.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I decided that it's probably better if I go home. I was trying to persuade the nurses that I wanted to go home. They said that I won't be... Actually, the doctors said that I won't be safe at home, as safe as I am in the hospital. Then I was thinking about dirty toilet that I couldn't use on my own. I was thinking that there was no one who had time. There were no cushions to elevate my legs. I felt really uncomfortable. At the same time, the lady at the end of the ward, the older lady, another older lady, started complaining about something, and in another middle of the night, lots of doctors come in, gather around her bed. Turns out that she's got an infection.
There was an infection in another part of the ward as well that was already blocked off.
But that was the point where I decided, like, in the morning, I'm asking Dion to go home, whether I have to discharge myself or not. Because all I had to do was go into his Doppler scan to check how my leg was doing, and at the same time go to eye casualty to check how my eye was doing. Mm-hmm. And Dion said that he can do it, he can take me from home. So that's not a problem. They were still making fuss, they wouldn't let me out. And also, at the very last minute, they discovered that my iron is very low. I got the iron infusion and we went home.
Mm-hmm.
And I could elevate my leg, and I had such a good night's sleep. And morphine. They wouldn't give me morphine home. They said that they're not going to do that. I can take their hydrocodone. And I was going to say, like, yeah, I take the hydrocodone for breakfast. Well, that's kind of true. I was on so much dihydrocodeine because of stiff person syndrome. I also am not entirely sure that the ward doctors knew about my stiff person syndrome. It only
at first
occurred
they
to me.
didn't. At first they didn't. They did eventually, but
They did.
But at some point they didn't have a clue that you had other things already wrong with you.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's the total miscommunication or lack of communication. So I was at home. My mom came over, and Dion would go to work as norm.
But you're forgetting that I had to give you injections as well.
Oh yeah, because the injections. What were they?
It was a Pixaban, wasn't it?
What was a Pixaban?
Yeah.
So it's a different blood thinner, but just given to me, like, to my belly. Got like so many injections into my belly. It was just ridiculous. So Dion was giving me injections. He's basically almost qualified as a nurse at this point.
No way.
Giving me injections, and at the same time taking me to eye casualty.
Taking 2 appointments.
Appointments, yeah. And my mom was looking after me, meaning that at first I was my leg was too painful, and I was too weak to even go to the bathroom. So my mom or Dion would just help me, I mean, carrying me really. And then at the same time, I was so skinny that was probably the skinniest I've ever been.
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
still had very low appetite, although my mum was doing absolutely everything to you know,
Try and feed you.
to try and feed me. I also couldn't take any baths, so we worked out the system. My mum was washing me. I was 34 at the time, wasn't I? So you don't actually envisage your mum washing you in bed at that point. You think that you will have to do it for your parents, unfortunately, at some point. But no, my mum had to do it for me. We worked out the system. We got a massive bed, so we put towels on the bed everywhere, and so I could roll over. And we had this laundry basket that is solid. It doesn't have any
No holes in it.
no holes in it. So my mum would just take the water from the bathroom, and she would just take the sponge and wash my hair. Sometimes it was just a lot of gymnastics that I wasn't really up for.
Yeah, it's not really ideal, but
Not
it's
ideal.
just what had to be done at the time.
Yeah, but my mum was doing it. Then I would roll over, roll back, you know, so make sure that she would just wash my entire body. Still better than, you know, staying in hospital. And at that point, they did give me morphine at the time, because I said that the hydrocodone wouldn't even touch it. I take it every day anyway. So Dion started weaning me off morphine as well, because we started off with 10 milliliters.
Yeah, you couldn't just go cold turkey off of morphine.
No. So then he started weaning me off, because we only got
Just one bottle.
One bottle of it, yeah. But towards, like, after a week, I think the pain subsided to the level manageable without morphine. I mean, without copious amounts of morphine. And at some point, I think it was, well, I had to meet a hematologist. She was really nice, one of my favorite doctors still, very understanding. I had to wear compression stockings, and I think that's pretty much.
Yeah, there's not really much else to say about it. It eventually got better.
Yeah, I remember my dad called one day, and my mom was trying to convince him that I'm not that skinny, that, you know, that everything's fine. She's just saying, like, she's obviously a little bit skinnier than, you know. I was really chubby before I got ill, so they were used to me being chunky. And she just said, like, she's a little bit skinnier because she just got really ill. As a matter of fact, I was just bones, really.
I've got a picture somewhere. We can put it on screen of you looking really skinny.
Yeah, so I was skinny. I remember having this really big head, and so thanks to my mom, obviously she's also, like,
Yeah, she did an amazing job.
She did an amazing job, and the fact that that was before the whole, after Brexit vote, but before the Brexit transition. Lots of people ask me how Brexit affected me. Well, obviously it affects things like that. I've got British citizenship, so it doesn't really affect me while I'm in Britain. But because I'm ill, and if I want someone to be with me straight away, they have to get, I think they need visa now or something. Yeah, but she wasn't able to come here and care for me
After the stem cell transplant.
after the stem cell transplant. But that was partially also because of COVID going on.
Yeah, there was 2 complications at once. So.
Yeah, and by the time she could travel, I just told her not to bother coming over. Anyway, going back to plasma exchange, she went home, and I think you started working from home at some point. Or was it?
I think I was doing like half and
No,
half.
no, you were still working.
I was still working in the office, but I was spending more time at home in the morning, and then.
Yeah. So I got a nice letter from NHS that I've got a rare disorder, not stiff person syndrome. It was called HIP, heparin-induced
Thrombocytopenia.
thrombocytopenia, at that point, obviously I felt really low. I was scared every single day that I was still at the risk of the clot going somewhere in my body, and as well as
a piece could have broken off and gone throughout somewhere and cause a pulmonary embolism, something like that. Yeah.
My eye was getting slightly better, so at least I wasn't worrying that much that I was going to
made a
lose my eye.
full recovery with your eye.
Yeah. My consultant, my neurology consultant, called me 3 times at the time, and I was really angry because I didn't want to have plasma exchange in the first place. I felt like I had to prove something, that I have to prove that it's not working just so we can carry on the treatment. At the same time, I couldn't actually be angry at him because I still needed him to refer me to stem cell transplant, which I believed was going to help me. So he called me 3 times during that time, asking whether I'm absolutely sure that plasma exchange didn't help me. Listen, this is so not just annoying, but so insensitive. I just felt at the time, I was thinking like, why are you calling for the 3rd time, asking me the same question? It's not like the clot was formed in my brain.
I can understand him wanting to know, but I think his timing was way off. He should have waited for you to recover from the DVT.
Yeah, he's not necessarily known for being sensitive either.
No, I know.
Yeah. And no, I wasn't getting better. If anything, the plasma exchange actually set me back.
Well, it made things worse. Definitely.
Made things worse, yeah. I was obviously on a bed rest for a long time, which didn't help in anything.
I think it's not just that, it's just the amount of stress it put you under.
And it put me under
physically
so
and
much
mentally.
stress, yes. So my stiff person syndrome got slightly progressed even quicker. The whole thing was a fiasco, really. I think it could have been avoided if it wasn't for the fact that it was 8 days. Also, if nurses knew what they were doing with heparin, or they admitted that they didn't know and they were not going to do that, I would be better off with my line blocked at that point, probably.
Probably, yeah, because, well,
when the clot stood,
your physical health would have been much better. They would have just had to have replaced the line in that case.
Yeah, but I suffer from the consequences of it.
Yeah,
to this day. To this day, I still have. Well, they told me it's just a scar tissue at this point. The whole thing made me feel really anxious, and now every time I go to the hospital, obviously I have to like triple check that no one is giving me heparin. But also I'm very vigilant. I would never like. I don't let myself sleep in the hospital. Actually, the sheer fact that I have to go to the hospital always puts me in some kind of anxiety, like real anxiety. But I also feel like it's not anxiety that is not like, unfunded. Like,
no, there's a real reason for it.
There's a real reason for it, and that's because I just almost died.
It's more a lack of trust than anything.
It's lack of trust, yeah. And there are people who actually have plasma exchange for stiff person syndrome, and they're saying that they feel better after it.
Yeah, so it can work.
And they have it on a monthly basis, I believe. And they're happy with the results. Obviously, I wouldn't repeat it. Not only did that not work, but it was very traumatizing. So the lesson to take from here is, try plasma exchange. Don't actually drag it over a period that wasn't necessary. If they told me that I have to wait a bit longer, but then I can have it done in 3 consecutive days, that would be so much better. That's the story about me and plasma exchange. And I don't want to dump on NHS again, because as I said, there were like people who were amazing. That ward, the other ward, there was just like I don't even know how they got to that stage. I'm actually really sorry for people who stayed there, older people who didn't have much choice but just to stay there. Well, being with my partner and being with my mum, that was the best care. Even though the doctors were saying you're gonna be safe here, no, I was safer at home because of people who cared about me, and also my mom was doing the eye drops when Dion was at work, and she actually made sure that things were going to my eyes. It was a battle. I mean, as much as I could battle people when it comes to eye drops, but yeah, like I think doctors underestimated how much good care I was gonna get home and how much shitty care I was getting in the hospital. I think there's this.
I think doctors don't actually realise what's happening on the wards.
Yeah, no, they've
Because
got.
they're barely there. They're running from patient to patient, and then that's it.
Yeah, they just like, oh, the nurse is gonna do it for you. Oh, is she really? Did you ask her? Hopefully, anyone who's waiting for plasma exchange, I didn't scare you off. Anyway, so that's my story. That's our story. Thank you for watching.
Thanks.
Any questions, anything, just ask. Bye.
Bye.